So if you walk up to the lake and it smells, you're less likely to rent a boat. So we've got on the top side here, what the rows indicate here is the number of boats rented per day. So they either rent 0 boats, 1 boat, or 2 boats per day. So that's the columns. The rows here indicate the chemical firm and how many tons of this pollutant that comes into the lake. 0, 1, or 2 tons of the pollutant into the lake. Now, as you note here, the color scheme indicates which firm we're talking about. So the light blue here is the chemical firm. The dark blue is the boat rental. So what we've got in the middle of the table here, this is payoffs. You can think of this as profits. How much in profit the firm makes if it chooses, for example, 2 boats and the chemical firm produces 0 units of pollution. So if the lake is clean, the boat rental company rents 2 boats, it makes $15 in profits. The chemical firm makes 0. If the chemical firm ramps up its production of stinkiness, right, the boat company here rents 2 boats per day. It has to lower its prices because people won't pay as much here. So the chemical firm makes $10 in profits because it now is producing. Same thing goes, you just keep on going here, and you have all these different potential payoffs here depending on what the behavior of the boat rental versus the chemical firm is going to be. Now the first thing I want to figure out is here, what's the socially optimal combination of outputs? Right, where is joint profits maximized? So here, 15 plus 0 is 15, 10, 0, 14, 20, 17, 12, 15, 15. So the socially optimal output level, the one that maximizes social welfare, or joint profits in this case. Uh-oh. Aha! That's right, I have a backup pen. Okay, so this here is the socially optimal level of production, right? Chemical firm produces 1 unit, and the boat rental company rents 1 boat. Each go home with 10 for a societal payoff of $20. Now let's look at what's optimal from the chemical firm, right? Neither firm right now has the right to use the lake. So the chemical firm is just looking at its profits, and it's trying to figure out where it makes the highest profit. So if it produces 0 units, independent of what the rental firm does, it gets $0 in profit because it's not selling anything, right? If it produces 1 unit, independent of what the boat rental company does, it gets 10, 10, 10. So it's better off producing 1 unit than 0 units, independent of what the boat company does. Even better, if it produces 2 units, it gets $15 in profit. So what we're saying here is that it's optimal for the industry, for the chemical firm to produce 2 units of pollution because its profits are highest in that 2-unit pollution setting, regardless of what the boat rental company does. Okay? So the chemical firm is going to produce 2 units. Now let's assume perfect information here. The boat rental company knows that the chemical firm is going to produce 2 units. So now the boat rental company is looking at its potential payoff if it knows that the chemical firm is producing 2 units. If it doesn't rent anything, 0. If it rents 1, it gets $2. If it rents 2, it has minus $3. So what's the boat rental firm going to do? It's going to rent 1 boat, right? So the outcome here is going to be this one here, where the polluter is emitting 2 units of pollution, the boat rental company produces 1 unit, rents 1 boat, and societal payoff or societal profits are $17. That's less than if somehow we could convince the chemical firm to produce just 1 unit of pollution. So these firms left alone will reach a level of output that is inefficient from a social point of view. There's too much pollution, and the number of boat rentals is right, but the overall level of payoff here to these 2 firms jointly is inefficiently low. Okay. Now let's change the game a little bit here. This is not game theory. I'm just using let's change the rules a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grant the right to be free from pollution to the boat firm. Okay? So the boat firm now has the right to a clean lake. Boat firm can enforce this with a big mean sheriff who walks up to the polluter and says, turn off this stuff. The boat people are saying the lake smells. All right? So the boat people can allow the firm to produce, and they can tell them how much to produce, or whatever they want. It's their lake. So the boat rental firm has a property right to be free from pollution, and it can enforce that property right. So what's going to happen here? Okay, so rather than shut down, I'm going to show you this in the table in a second. Rather than actually shut down, the boat rental company is going to realize, well, maybe I can extort, or I don't know what a nicer way of using extortion is. Maybe I can convince the polluter that it's optimal for them to pay me some money, and I'll let them dump their waste into my lake, right? So the boat rental firm is going to insist on making at least $15, right? Why is this at least $15? Let's go back to our table. So the highest profits the boat rental firm can ever make is 15. So if you look across all of the dark blue shaded areas, the best it can be is at $15, which means it rents 2 boats and the chemical firm produces 0 pollution. So if it's going to let the chemical firm dump waste into the lake, it has to be better off than with just $15 here. So what the boat company is going to say, well, let me try and figure out a way to get at least $15, all right? The largest bribe that the chemical company will actually pay is one that leaves it with a positive profit, right? Because if the boat company insists, again, going back here, to having sole ownership of the lake with no pollution, it's got $0 of profits. So the only way there's a trade, an opportunity for a trade or a payment here is a payment where the boat company makes more than $15, and these guys here all of a sudden make more than $0. So what would that be? Turns out that one possibility, and there's not one solution here, there's a range of solutions here that depends on how good you are at bargaining. There's a huge return to being a good bargainer, right? Don't bargain all the time, but sometimes it's good to bargain. So one possibility, and I'm just making this up here, is that the company offers the boat rental firm $7 per ton of pollution for the right to dump. That means for each unit of pollution we dump into the lake, we will pay you $7 in addition to whatever profits you make. So what you would do here is if we go back to our table here, so for each unit polluted, this chemical firm would pass 7 of its $10 on to the boat rental firm. So this here would be a 3, this would be a 7, right? This would be a 3, this would be a 17, this would be a 3, this would be a 12. For 2 units, 2 times 7 is 14, so this would be a 1, this would be a 14, this would be a 1, this would be a 16, this would be a 1, and this would be an 11, right? What are you talking about, Max? The firm is simply paying for the right to pollute. So that's exactly what's done here, is where we've recalculated this payoff table right here, where the firm that's polluting for each ton it pumps into the lake pays the rowing company $7. So now, if we look at what the optimal outcome is here for each firm, right? The polluter, now all of a sudden 0 if it produces nothing, $1 of profits if it produces 2 units, or $3 in profit if it produces 1 unit. So 1 unit dominates all other choices because profits are higher for 1 unit than for 0 or 2. So now, since the boat rental firm knows that the chemical firm is going to produce 1 unit of pollution in this setup, it chooses between 7, 17, and 12. Which one's it going to choose? $17. So where are we going to end up? I know, it's terrible. But that's amazing. I have the choice between a sun and a heart, right? It's almost Mother's Day, so we'll go with the heart. So we end up at 1, 1. Is that the efficient level of output? Yeah, it maximizes welfare. I dare you to find another box here if you add the 2 numbers that gets you more than $20. You can't. All right? What did we do here? All we did is we assigned the property right to the lake to the boat company, and we get to the efficient outcome here. Right? What the exact split of profits is here, the range of payment numbers we could get is somewhere between $5 and $10. So we picked 7 because it's right in the middle, but this works for anything greater than 5 and anything less than 10. You would end up at the right number here. Well, Max, maybe you just set this up. Right? You do this all the time. You're a little bit of a trickster, so maybe you always want to get the happy boat people the good stuff, and the polluters are all evil. I'm not like that at all. Right? Let's give the lake to the firm. Right? Maybe the firm bought the lake and it's their lake. So how about the chemical company has property right to the lake? Now the boat rental company can bribe the chemical company to reduce its pollution. Right? So for example, the boat rental company could offer the polluting firm $6 per ton it doesn't pollute, right? So if you reduce your pollution from 2 to 1, we'll give you $6. From 1 to 2, we'll give you from 1 to 0, we'll give you $12. So you do this again to the initial payoff table, and that payoff table now looks something like this, right? Where the firm pays at 2 units of pollution, it pays nothing. At 1 unit of pollution, it pays $6 to the polluter. At 0 units of pollution, it pays $12 to the polluter. So there's a transfer. Now we can again see that for the industrial firm, 0 units of output give it $12 of profit, 2 units of output give it 15, but 1 unit of output gives it $16 in profit. So it's optimal for that firm to produce 1 unit. The boat rental firm is going to choose between losing $6, $1, or making $4, and it, of course, will choose to make $4. So again here, we get our efficient outcome level of $20. Now, if you are, before you get to ask your question, you have to give me an answer. So if you are a powerful pollution company, would you rather have the property rights assigned to the pollution company or the boat company? Yeah, of course. If you are, a rowing enthusiast and partial owner of the rowing club, would you rather have the property rights assigned to the rower or the pollution firm? The rower, right? So property rights are incredibly valuable because what we'll see is that the party that has the property rights to the asset here, of course, does better than the side of the market or the agent that doesn't. So if the lake belongs to the polluters, they get 16. If the lake belongs to the rowers, they get whatever the number was we had in the previous sign. So who does better ultimately within the market? The equity implications here certainly depend on who ends up with the property rights, but the size of the pie is maximized simply by assigning property rights to either side. Question? You're good? All right. So, here we go. So if there are no impediments to bargaining, if you can just assign property rights, the efficient outcome is achieved, and the joint profits are maximized. And it doesn't matter who gets the property rights. Now, there are lots and lots of settings where efficient bargaining simply isn't possible, right? You may have somebody in your big apartment building who has, so we had somebody upstairs with this DJ. He would come home at like 4 in the morning, and they had still records, and they had these milk crates of records, and he would come in, and at 3 in the morning drop this from this height onto the floor, and our light fixture actually came out of the ceiling once. But we could not figure out where the DJ lived forever because of the hallways. So bargaining, even in one-on-one situations, may be complicated, or the person may simply be bigger than you are, all right? So there are lots and lots of reasons why bargaining between the two sides may be not possible, and this is where designing these property rights schemes becomes incredibly complicated. All right. So that's the Coase theorem. I love the Coase theorem. It's really, really neat. There's lots of issues, but it's a powerful theorem. So let me quickly set up market failure number 6, which we're going to polish off next time. But I just want to tell you what it is a little bit and what it isn't, because people think that public goods are one thing when there's actually very subtle differences between the things that people think are public goods. So a public good is a commodity or service whose consumption by one person doesn't preclude others from also consuming it. I can't ever remember that, all right? So the way I remember what a public good is, I remember that a public good is non-rival and it's non-excludable. Those are the 2 things that define a public good. So non-rival means if I consume something, there's still just as much left over for everyone else. So now that Fiona's drinking her coffee, I'm sorry I keep on picking on Fiona, now that you're drinking your coffee, at the end of class, is there just as much left over for everyone else? No, right? It's a definite rival good. Chocolate cake is rival, ice cream is rival, cars are rival. What's non-rival? National defense, radio waves, right? Things where if you turn on your radio, it doesn't preclude others from turning on their radio and listening to the same broadcast. Of course, we've destroyed that now with XM radio and Sirius, where you actually, they have a limited number of connections, I think. But more importantly, these technologies are excludable. So the second aspect of a public good is non-excludability. I cannot, whatever I do, exclude you from using the good, right? So try and stop somebody from turning on their radio. It's really hard to do, right? You can't really do it. So we finally figured it out by putting radio stations on a satellite that requires a digital encryption key and a code in order for you to access the stream. So unless you pay $12.95 a month for that radio, you can't use it. So we can exclude you from using satellite radio, but we can't exclude you from using regular radio. A public good has to be both. It can't just be non-rival or non-excludable. It has to be non-rival and it has to be non-excludable. So what are those other goods, right? So a non-rival, non-excludable good, that's a public good. But what about a good that's rival and non-excludable? Open ocean fisheries, right? I can't stop you from going out, buying a big old boat, and starting to shoot tuna. Or I don't know how you get tuna, but I think whales you shoot and tuna, I don't know what you do with it. It doesn't really matter. But the point here is, I can't stop you from doing it, right? But once you've caught that tuna or that whale is yours and no longer available for consumption or enjoyment of others. It's rivaling consumption. So these are the really troublesome goods. These are the tragedy of the commons type goods. These are common access resources. There's something valuable that you can not be stopped from catching or consuming, but it's yours and no longer available for someone else. So that's a common access resource. A rival and excludable good is a private good. And a non-rival but excludable good is a public good with exclusion. So think of really, really large rock and roll festivals. I'm going to call it rock and roll because that's what it is. Coachella, outside lands, these types of things. Once you go in, right, once you're past the gates, nobody can stop you from enjoying as much or little of it as you want, right? But they can exclude you from getting in. So it's non-rivaling consumption, but they can exclude you from using it. So quiz, what I want you to do is take a piece of paper, write your name down, and then I want you to tell me the 2 characteristics that define a public good. Don't talk, don't talk. So what 2 things does a good have to be in order to be a proper public good? I literally said it 5 times about 35 seconds ago. If you get this one wrong, I'm going to call you at home and tell you the answer to make sure you know for the final. Ready? How about we mix it up a little bit and not make the same people work every quiz? So how about this time? Pass it over to this side, all right? Pass your quizzes over to that side and we'll come collect them.